Okay, so we need to talk about what happened yesterday with Netanyahu's speech, Biden's speech, and what it all means. So on yesterday's show, I actually did a live stream last night doing a little bit of a highlight and coverage of it. And the thing is, it's abundantly clear that Congress is owned by Netanyahu. And of course, Biden is a senile old goat, which now one has to wonder, where does this land Kamala Harris? Well, Bernie Sanders decides to weigh in. And actually, at this point, Bernie, I have to agree with you because he says that in regards to Kamala Harris, he wanted somebody more progressive than him. And apparently Kamala is not that progressive heavyweight champion. But of course, that's not going to stop Bernie Sanders being the nutless wonder that he is, because Bernie always has been and always will be a cuck. So I want to pull up this video here. Shout out to Case Study QB. Be sure to follow him on all social media. He's doing some great work. But hey, here's Bernie in the aftermath of Biden's speech, Netanyahu's speech, and where does this lead the Democrats in the remnants of the 2024 election cycle?
Bernie Sanders, who has been taking a somewhat more measured approach. And Senator Sanders, it's great to have you here tonight. You just heard President Biden delivering that address, and at the end of it, saying that he has made his pick and endorsing Vice President Harris to succeed him. You have yet to endorse her. Are you prepared to do so tonight?
I'm going to work as hard as I can to see that Donald Trump, the most dangerous president in American history.
Even then, he can't answer the question. He deflects it to Trump. Jesus Christ. It's always Trump. It's always about Trump. Everything has to be about Trump.
Is defeated, and that Kamala Harris is, in fact, the next president of the United States. But before I make a formal announcement, I just want to make certain that the vice president is going to be campaigning on issues that the working class of this country, a working class that has long been forgotten, needs to hear. And I want to just make sure that the vice president will be working with President Biden, with me and others, to demand that the wealthiest people in this country start paying their fair share of taxes, that when we have 50% of our elderly people living on $30,000 a year or less.
Whenever Bernie starts rambling like this, I have to wonder what these pundits are thinking about. What's going on in that big old brain of yours, Callan Collins? What are you thinking about? Are you just going with the numbers? You're not going to interrupt and say, "Hey, that wasn't the answer to my question. You were just going on with all this other stuff about Trump being a threat, X, Y, and Z." But no. I don't know. Maybe nothing's going on at all. Maybe it's like when Homer Simpson's in deep thought and all what it is just good old cartoons playing in his head.
That we expand Social Security benefits by lifting the cap on taxable income so the rich start paying their fair share. I want to hear her be strong in contrasting herself with Trump and making it clear that we have got to save this planet from climate change, that we're pro-union, make it easier for workers to join union. We raise the minimum wage to a living wage, that we deal with the fact that we have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country on earth. So we got to start focusing on issues that working class people desperately need to hear when 60% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck and too many elderly.
Jesus Christ, I've heard this so many times, man. I don't think he has an original thought in his head.
Too many kids are living in poverty.
Well, and obviously she's still looking for a governing partner at this time. We've seen the list of candidates that they are vetting right now. A lot of them are moderate members of the Democratic Party. And I wonder if when you look at that list, you'd like to see her maybe cast a wider net to include someone who has championed some of the same issues that you yourself do.
That's never going to happen.
Well, I would hope. There's a lot of speculation as to who might be a running mate, but I certainly would like to see somebody who has a history of standing up to the oligarchs who have so much power in this country, who is going to fight for campaign finance reform so the big money doesn't dominate both political parties. Yeah, I certainly would like to see that person be the vice presidential candidate.
I have to ask you about something that Donald Trump said at a rally tonight when he was attacking Vice President Harris. He said she is, quote, more liberal than Bernie Sanders. Is that how you would put it?
Probably not. It is just possible for the 83rd,000th time that Trump is lying. No, I don't think that is the case. I think that the vice president had a very strong record in the U.S. Senate, strong record
in, well, basically being a corporate sellout. Plus, in her previous careers, she was playing a major role in the great state of California, helping to incarcerate many, many, many black men behind bars. You know, that's Kamala. Kamala ruled there with an iron fist. She didn't play around there, Bernie. So the one time Bernie actually told the truth, like, nah, she's not as progressive as me. Because if she was as progressive, she would not be anywhere near the office of president or vice president or any other position. Hey, Bernie, remember at one point there was a rumor going around where supposedly you were going to be part of the Biden administration? Yeah, how'd that turn out?
working with President Biden in the administration. But no, I don't quite think that her record is where mine is in terms of being progressive.
Do you think you'll eventually come around to endorsing her? I mean, are you leaning that way?
I am going to,
have these conversations?
Caitlin, I am going to do everything I can to make sure that she wins. But I just want to hope that in the next few days and weeks, we can make sure that we put together a campaign that focuses on the needs of working class. So make no mistake about it, I'm with her. And I'm going to do everything that they can, that I can, that the progressive movement can, to make sure that she is the next president.
Senator Sanders, you're on Capitol Hill right now. Obviously, earlier, Prime Minister Netanyahu addressed Congress. You did not attend that speech. You said yesterday it was the first time that you believed a war criminal, as you put it, had been invited to address the U.S. Congress. In that speech, he referenced the protesters who were outside the Capitol. There were thousands of them as Tehran's useful idiots. Yeah. What was your takeaway from what you heard from Prime Minister Netanyahu?
My takeaway is that he came a very long distance from Jerusalem to Washington, D.C. to give a campaign speech for the folks back in Israel. This is a guy who some 70% of the people in Israel in the last poll that was taken want to resign.
Well, gee, Bernie, maybe you should have been a little bit more forceful in making sure that all that weapons and funding didn't go to Israel, especially in the aftermath of when October 7th was happening. So many civilian homes, residential areas, community centers, churches, mosques, hospitals, etc., refugee centers were being bombed. I mean, you know, you say one thing and you do something completely different, like any other politician.
So he came here and he got a good reception from the Republicans. But, you know, it's not just me who thinks he is a war criminal. This is what the International Criminal Court has determined. They have determined what I believe to be true, that his policies are resulting in the starvation of tens and tens of thousands of children and Palestinians. And that is a war crime. And he, along with Sinwar, the leader of Hamas, has been charged with being war criminals. And in my view, they both are. Sinwar started this war with his Hamas terrorist group, but Netanyahu has waged total war, destroying the housing, destroying the infrastructure, destroying the healthcare system. They have bombed every one of the 12 universities in Gaza, and now we're looking at tens and tens of thousands of children facing starvation. And he lied. He lied when he said, "Oh, we are trying to get food in. We are, you know, trying to act in a decent way." Every humanitarian organization working in Gaza indicates that Israel is making it difficult, impossible for food to get into starving people. That is a war crime.
Yeah, you know what else is a war crime? Enabling a war crime, which is what Bernie Sanders and the Democrats and Republicans have been doing. Oh my goodness, because sooner or later, that Lancet report's going to be outdated, because that number of 186 to 200,000 potentially dead could be much higher. Do we go to 250? Do we go to 300? Do we go to 350? Do we go to 450? Hell, why not? Let's cross that Rubicon and get to 500,000. Does it come as any surprise to all of you about the disappointment of the Democrats, especially with Bernie Sanders? See, the one benefit, though, that I think Bernie can get from all of this is that he really can't be blamed this time around, or use it at blamed. Because let's face it, the Democrats have made it very clear how they run their primaries. Because we're witnessing it now, third time. This time, there's no scapegoat. There's no Bernie Sanders. There's no quote-unquote white Bernie bros. And by the way, if you did help out the Bernie Sanders campaign, congratulations. During those times of 2016 and 2020, during those primaries, and even in the aftermath of those primaries going into the general election and the years that followed, if you were Black, Latino, Asian, woman, congratulations. At least the way corporate media was smearing Bernie Sanders supporters, you were all straight white males. But see, this is the problem for Bernie. And that is, there's nothing he can really do to save Kamala. Now, there is a honeymoon phase right now going on because K-Hive and Vote Blue, no matter who, seem to be so euphoric and happy that Kamala is now their number one gal. But what can Bernie Sanders do? What can he offer this time? His coalition is non-existent. It truly is. Look at what happened to the great progressive movement. The progressive movement has disappeared, evaporated. Whatever remains of it is a shell of its former self. Justice Democrats, Brand New Congress, Our Revolution, DSA, and any other activist group or association or institution that was with Bernie from 2016 and onwards has lost membership, has lost support, has failed to really follow through in any of their promises to fight for us, the people. All what we're learning from Bernie Sanders is that Kamala is not as progressive as him, and he knows better, because if there was somebody progressive like him in the office of vice presidency, or he's at in the White House, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Bernie Sanders learned, and as all of us should have learned, that there's no way the Democratic Party would allow somebody like Bernie Sanders to win. But the other issue is, and this is something that needs to be made clear to those who still have faith in Bernie, he was never who he said he was. Bernie Sanders has a history of being on the wrong side when it comes down to foreign wars, our economy, and so much more. Bernie and his track record, while some of it is good, he has shown himself to be a loyal servant to the DNC. But even with that little word salad come from Bernie, that's still not going to get him or stop him from not getting reamed by corporate media. No matter what you do, Bernie, you will always be vilified.
Dana, it sounds like Senator Sanders is on board, but just wants to make sure he gets on to the vice president's schedule at some point in the next few days.
There's a few things he wants to talk to her about, but honestly, he doesn't maybe need to endorse her, because telling the world that she is not as liberal as he is maybe the best campaign statement that he could give to her right now, when she is, of course, she has to shore up her base, but she really also needs to appeal to independents and others who are going to get beyond that.
Yeah, I mean, and that is going to be a challenge.
I also want to acknowledge something that was said in the live stream chat right here. Crystal Watson, Kamala never had a movement. Yeah, in order for Kamala to get this moment, because right now what we're seeing is manufactured hype for Kamala. Manufactured hype. Hype. This is all hype for Kamala. If we look back at her initial run in the primary, her campaign went belly up. She went broke before the first primary vote was cast. Not only did voters reject her, but we saw her get destroyed not once but twice by Tulsi Gabbard. And so whatever momentum is behind her, it is because of people who are suffering from Trump derangement syndrome and those that are finally, I guess, somewhat relieved that Biden is no longer the nominee. But how long can that last? Because the internet, all what it has to do is wake up. All what a lot of people have to do is wake up and look into her track record. But we'll be talking more about voters and what corporate media thinks of voters, especially Black voters, later on.
Challenge for her to get the Bernie Sanders progressives on board, while also expanding the caricature being painted of her as an out-of-touch San Francisco liberal, and reaching out to get the collar counties outside Philly and on and on.
Again, there is a race now to define the vice president for the American people out there. And there are a lot of Democrats who are actually breathing a sigh of relief and viewing the Trump campaign as rather flat-footed. The Senate candidate in Pennsylvania, Dave McCormick, put up an ad that cast Kamala Harris as a left of Bernie Sanders, or at least as left as Bernie Sanders liberal. The Trump campaign.
Listen. I know occasionally I do get some conservative and Trump supporters watching this show occasionally. Listen, guys, look, listen. Kamala ain't no progressive, okay? She's very law and order. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but if you look at her history and her voting record and what she's done to black people, especially black people, it's very clear. Oh, she is a law and order candidate. Don't let the Democrat logo fool you. She played a key role in mass incarceration in the great state of California. She played a key role in withholding evidence of an innocent man on death row. Now, listen, death row, that's it. It's final. All this talk about Kamala being this progressive, she's as corrupt as it can get. It's rather insulting that corporate, this is what we have for corporate media. But that's why Hard Lens Media exists, because we have to correct that record. We have to correct the record. We have to read through the lies. So any conservative voter out there, hey, listen, if you're going to be voting for Trump, fine. But please dismiss the notion that Kamala is this left-wing liberal progressive. She's nowhere near that threshold. Just ask the black voters in the great state of California what they really think of Kamala, the cop Harris.
Campaign has not put any money on television yet. This is one of the challenges. Is she, in the 2020 campaign, when she was running to the left of Joe Biden to get the nomination, she came around to a number of liberal positions that were not her. She had never spoken out in favor of the Senate. Well, everybody in that campaign was moving. There are a lot of Democrats saying, why didn't the Trump campaign drop a bunch of millions of dollars, even if it was crudely produced, just put her out there, boom. So that's part of the race. And that's, Senator Sanders, he's done this before. He's smart. He knows what he's doing here. You're right. He wants to get on her schedule. He wants to make sure that she understands. He has a great fundraising list. He has a great organizational list.
No, that's all gone. That's all gone, honey child. Bernie Sanders has nothing. At one point, Bernie Sanders was a king. He had money. And by the way, Bernie, right here. Seriously. And I'll tell you why. Hold on. We're going to have a little bit of fun here because I keep on getting these stupid freaking text messages. And I'm pretty sure all of you watching are getting them too. You want to know why? Because Bernie, if you were a Bernie Sanders supporter, unfortunately, I was. He gave away our emails and our cell phone numbers to the DNC. So that's why you're getting texts. That's right. That's why you're getting cell phone calls. You're getting emails from your ex, the Democrat Party. Oh, please take us back. Here, hold on. We're going to have some fun here. On my time, we are. Hold on. From my cell phone right here. Hang on, folks. This will be fun. And it'll be great. It'll be great. Wow. Check this out. Wow. George Clooney just said he's 100% Team Harris. Wow. Look at that. Match up. Hashtag, how do you feel? Type stop MAGA. Hold on. It gets better. The first polls are out. Kamala's winning. Wow. Hold on. Breaking. Reuters poll, Kamala Harris leads Trump 44% to 42%. Kamala can win. That's Madam President. If you're ready for Kamala Harris, chip in now. Please donate $5. Hold on. Yes! Hold on, folks. I hope you're ready, and I better see celebratory emoji chats. And in the comment section, when I clip this video, I better see firework emojis in all of this. Yes! Barbara Streisand said she's 100% Team Kamala. It's over, folks. Barbara Streisand is in. Step aside, Bernie. Barbara Streisand's in. Madness and insanity.
She has a ton of power in places where she could use the help. And there are a lot of Democrats out there who love Joe Biden for kicking Trump out of the White House, but have kind of become demoralized and despondent even. There was despair before Sunday afternoon. And does he have the vigor to do this? We can't let Trump come back. There is this, the small donor money is the best data point right now. As I said, wait a week or two for the polls. The small donor rush to Kamala Harris is the best data point right now that she has an opportunity. Again, smart Democrat I talked to yesterday said Sunday morning, we had about a 5% chance of winning. Now we have about a 40% chance of winning. So, Democrats shouldn't rush to Vegas and bet the house, but they're in play now. That's the excitement. They think, okay.
No, the Democrats right now, even the most, yes, I actually have some liberal friends, and there's a lot of people now who are just overexcited that Kamala's the nominee. Let there be a debate between Donald Trump and Kamala. Let voters realize and look at Kamala's voting record. By the way, what has been her accomplishments as being vice president? She didn't really do shite as VP. What groundbreaking work did Kamala do in the 3.5 years of the Biden-Harris administration? All what she did was play that role of successor, waiting in the wings, and that's it. She failed with the border. She failed with every other institution. She fails. She constantly fails.
Okay, we have a chance.
Yeah. And the biggest saving grace, honestly, for Kamala Harris may be the fact that she did manage to avoid a divisive Democratic primary where she would have.
Avoid? First of all, first primary she was in, she got decimated. Second, there was no primary in 2024. Hey, Bernie, how do you feel?
Have been put in uncomfortable situation after uncomfortable situation as she had to would have to have decided just how progressive was she going to be, because
how progressive remember when Kamala, everybody remember back in 2019 when Kamala said that she was for Medicare for all or an equivalent to it. Remember that? It was very early on. And what happened? It's me, Kamala. Hello. Yeah, Kamala, you must follow the orders and do a backflip immediately on Medicare for all. Oh, I'm sorry, because she got a phone call. And she was told to shut up.
I think that's really where we saw her struggle when she ran for president, and even before that. I mean, I interviewed her back in 2018, and she told me that she thought that they should start from scratch. When I asked her if she wanted to abolish ICE, she pretty quickly cleaned that back up, and now that's something that's coming back into this campaign. She didn't have to deal with any of that. And
yeah, why? Because you got the nomination on a silver platter. Hey, liberals, listen. Before any of you type, oh, you just always talk bad about Democrats. Listen, I don't like the Republican Party either, okay? But what more can I say about the GOP or Donald Trump that hasn't been said? My audience can come with more creative insults for the Trump campaign or Republicans, but I got to be very clear on this one. Democrats, your primary and the Republican primary is night and day. Do you want to know what makes the Republican primary stand out more? It was more democratic. At least the Republican voters actually selected who they wanted as their nominee. At least they actually have a voice. In theory, yeah, it was more democratic. It was democratic in 2016, and it was more democratic here in 2024. If you're a Democrat or liberal voter, if you wasted your time waiting in line just to vote for Biden, congratulations. You just got a gold star sticker. That's it. You play no role whatsoever in selecting who will be the party's nominee. And who is to say that Kamala is going to be the nominee? Even Bernie Sanders can waltz in there and still it would make no difference. You don't matter. At least when Republican voters vote, they get what they want.
instead, she has an opportunity to meet with Bernie Sanders. And, you were talking about weakness among white working class men in particular. I actually covered Bernie Sanders day in and day out on the 2016 trail. And a lot of the people I talked to at those rallies were white working class men, many of whom were looking at Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump.
Because he fights for them. It's not so.
So, all right, here's another insult. Congratulations. If you voted for Bernie and you were black, Latino, Asian, doesn't matter. You were a straight white male. You broke that glass ceiling, everybody. At least according to CNN, all what Bernie Sanders got was just straight white men. You did it, everybody. Congratulations. At least through 2016 and the 2020 election cycles, you were a straight white man. I'm proud of all of you. You did it. At least according to CNN, you did it. Hey, celebratory fireworks all around.
so much the specifics of the issues. They think he fights for them. They might disagree with him on some things, issues-wise, but he shows up and he fights for them. Sherrod Brown faces the same test trying to win a Senate seat in Ohio. A great personal brand. Can you overcome the politics of the moment? I love watching politicians who might not match up on the issues with some of their key voters, but those voters say, I know he's for me. That was Joe Biden's gift.
Yeah, Joe Biden's gift. Yeah, fucking A. So what can we take away from this? First of all, there is an attempt, a desperate attempt, to make Kamala stand out, as CNN and even that interview with Kathleen Collins with Bernie made abundantly clear. They have no identity for Kamala. There's an emergency movement right now that even Bernie Sanders can't fix, and that is, how do we define Kamala? Well, she's not as progressive as Bernie Sanders. At least that's true. At least that's true. I will agree with Bernie Sanders on that. No, yeah, that's right. She's not as progressive as him, and she never will be. But also, Kamala has no identity whatsoever. And yet we hear from CNN and mainstream media that Kamala benefited from there not being a primary. Why? Because voters weren't reminded about how much of a terrible hack fraud she is. Jesus Christ, Bernie, would it kill you to actually maybe grow a nutsack and actually say, yeah, Kamala's the VP, she's the successor, but I lasted longer than her in the primary. I mean, all what she got was a pass, a door open for her. If it weren't for Amy Klobuchar's big screw up, Kamala would not even be in the White House right now. All right, and that's ripping off the Band-Aid. And no, that does, listen, I understand that identity politics means a lot to the vote blue no matter who crowd. But just because someone, has all the check boxes marked doesn't mean that they're qualified for the highest office of the land. Kamala is a flawed candidate. Bernie knows it, but he has to lie about it because he's a fraud. Everybody knows about it, even corporate media. I think they honestly, truly have forgotten what happened during the DNC convention, or either that, throughout all the primaries that we've witnessed. Her record isn't progressive. It's completely law and order. She's as corporate as it can get. She's been on the wrong side of history. She played a pivotal role in mass incarcerations, especially for black people in the great state of California. Ask black voters how they feel about Kamala. And there's a rumor about who she'll pick as her VP. No matter who she picks, they're going to be terrible because that's what the Democrats are good at. They can't make a case for themselves, and Bernie cannot make a case for Kamala, which is why he always falls back to his talking points that he never believed in the first place, to which I have to say, give us back our money, Bernie.
If you fool me once, it's because I didn't think a guard was needed. If you fool me twice, it's because I didn't learn the lesson, so it bears repeating. If you try the same play 3 times running, it's because you know what's coming, and you didn't come to lead, you came to purposefully be misleading. Democracy is dry. It's been a century bleeding. The husk is gaping open to the sky, out in the field where all the sheep just keep on circling and worrying and bleeding. They're waiting for the shepherd that they've tried to hide their faith in, but he's so appealing. They'd gladly give their fleece. It's such a freeing feeling that even when he leads them to the ledge and starts to urge them on, they're positively beaming. They were told that they were on their way to save democracy, so even as they plummet, they just gloat. They don't consider screaming. And halfway up the cliff, the shepherd's cozy little mittens wrap around the staff of shattered human hopes on which he's leaning. He shows the gentle grin that used to stir your inner spark, and he says, not me, us, as he gestures to the oligarchs. He knows that if he runs, they're going to stop him like a stolen car. And he'll easily surrender because it bought a lot of time for laying mines in all the grassroots. Suddenly, the tiniest of movements gets you blown apart. Suddenly, you're in a play that's set on an election day and voting for the fire, unaware you're playing Joan of Arc. Suddenly, the shepherd pulls the rug and slips a hood across your clueless mug, and everything goes zero dark. I'm gonna warn you once more before it's 2024 and you fuck around and find out who your heroes are. To take a step back from the herd and you'll learn that you can spot who all the shearers are. If you really want to know the product that they're selling, I can take you where the mirrors are. If you think your voice is finally ready, I can tell you where the lyrics are. I hid them in a box I had to bury neath the cobble when they carpet bombed the promenade and raided all the street bazaars. Now all we've got's the marketplace, and you're too broke to even bother asking what the options for your treatment are. Suddenly, the raw debris of homeless human dignity will find it has 100 teeth for every badge and sweeper's arm. Suddenly, they speak in solidarity and each is armed. Suddenly, the sheep can see the shepherd for his truest form and all pitch in at once to help him buy the farm. And now it's zero dark, and all is calm and peaceful save the distant wail of sirens that approach beside the flames of dawn. Suddenly, the carrot's just a string that's on a stick, and all your movements make you sick because the prize is gone. Now, we could go and flee into the forest low and meek, or we can exercise our right to feast and go and graze on Biden's lawn. Because he's been sowing seeds that seep a toxin out to sap a bit from each of us and keep on leaching decades after Biden's gone. So regardless who they summon out of hell to come and do the job, it will not feel like Biden's gone. But in that time of hopelessness, you cannot trust the shepherd when he once again comes asking you to humor him his siren song. And it's cute that you can innocently, honestly assume that's just a symptom of a system that was wired wrong, and not the standard feature, basic function, primary objective of a mass hypnosis firebomb. You don't need to know the words to cry along. Someday it'll hit you like an officer who pistol whipped their ride along. Broke his jaw and kept his job and kept it moving right along. That voting isn't red or blue or black or white or right or wrong. Voting's like a firing squad where you can choose the firearm. It's slow extinction by and large. It's Super Tuesday supercharged. It's all your futures, roots and all, just tossed out on a garbage barge. It's everybody dropping out to push the biggest oligarch. It's everybody voting fire, registered as Joan of Arc.